Welcome to Daniel Reviews. I'm Daniel Goodwin, and today we're talking about the Ecoflow Delta Pro 2. Okay, so Ecoflow hasn't released the Delta Pro 2, but it doesn't take a stretch of the imagination to know that they will be releasing a successor to the Delta Pro, because the Delta Pro has been so successful that there is definitely demand and people are going to want the next generation. So I thought in this video I would talk a little bit about the features that I am most excited about in the next Delta Pro. Number one, significantly increased solar input. And by that I mean both voltage and amperage. The current Delta Pro has a voltage limit of 150 volts. That is far too low to have an efficient solar panel array feeding it. You need somewhere like 500 volts. I would love to see a 450 to 500 volt increase, basically, on the solar input. And then I would like to see the current soft limit of the Delta Pro is about 15 amps. I'd love to see that increase to 30 amps. That allows you to go many more panels in series with the higher voltage limit, and you can go more panels in parallel with the amperage increase. That gives you flexibility with your array, so that if you are trying to compensate for some shaded areas, etc., it makes it much more useful. Number two, and honestly this really should have been number one. I think I got my list out of order, but number two is critical, and that means number two is backwards compatibility with the existing Ecoflow system. This is huge. If Ecoflow comes out with a new Delta Pro, a successor, and it is not compatible with all of the extra batteries, with the smart home panel system, that would be a tremendous shaft to every single customer of Ecoflow.
This isn't the biggest bag over the head punch in the face I ever got. God damn it!
We need to know that the products we bought will continue to be compatible with new systems. We understand that obviously whatever the Delta Pro 2 looks like is going to be different than the original Delta Pro, but we want to know that the things that we bought to work with it, like the extra batteries, the smart home panel, are going to work with the new Delta Pro. Number three, higher peak output. So the Delta Pro can, individually it can have an output of 3,600 watts. Together you can have an output of about 7,200 watts. With a new Delta Pro model, number two, I want to see that significantly increased. Certainly with two models well over 10,000 watts. I would love to see perhaps even more, like a 13 or 15 kilowatt output combined. Number four, the ability to connect to more than just two extra batteries. With the current Delta Pro, you can buy up to two extra batteries and connect them, which gives you a combined 10 kilowatt hours of storage capacity. I think that's far too low, and particularly if you have increased solar input in a new model. So I'd love to see, honestly, I'd love to see an infinite amount of extra batteries being connected to the new unit, the new Delta Pro, but at least 4 extra batteries or more should be able to be connected to the Delta Pro. Number five, I would like to see true split phase 240 volt output from a single unit. Currently the Delta Pro is only single phase output, and the only way to get split phase or 240 volt here in the US is to get 2 Delta Pro units and their double voltage hub, leg them together, and now you've got split phase output. There are other competitors that are already offering 240 volt output. Zender, their super base model, has a 240 volt 16 amp output, as well as Nature's Generator has a 240 volt 30 amp output. So there's really no reason when the Delta Pro 2 comes out that it couldn't support 240 volt split phase. I think that is totally reasonable, and basically that'd just be keeping up with the competition, so it needs to be there. Number six, I think. Number six, more and higher DC output. Right now, there's a number of DC outputs on the Delta Pro. The most, though, is an Anderson plug that gives you 30 amps at 12.8 volts. So not a very high wattage output out of the Delta Pro on a DC connection. Would love to see a much higher output. I'd love to see, 1500 watts DC output. There's a lot of extendability you would get if you had that. Next, I would like to see more capacity, battery capacity in the main unit. The current Delta Pro has 3.6 kilowatt hours of capacity, and that's fine, that's good, especially since you can buy extra batteries. But I think if we look at what the competition is fielding, by the time the Delta Pro 2 comes out, 3.6 is woefully under storage capacity. So next, I'd like to see more DC input options, significantly more. I would love to see the next Delta Pro have not only obviously a main solar input, a PV input, but I'd also like to have more DC inputs available so that if I also wanted to power the unit with a secondary solar array, or perhaps from a generator, or from a battery bank, or from just really any other source, I would love to have not just one input option. I would love to have my main, obviously solar PV input, but I'd like to have others that would work perhaps when my main one is not being fully utilized, or work together. Next, and I know this is a stretch goal, honestly it is, because it's not necessarily practical, but I want to throw it out there as something I'd love to see. I would love to see a wind turbine, and obviously the Delta Pro have the input for the wind turbine. If you don't know much about wind power, it is different than solar power, and you have to have a different type of controller to effectively use it. Wind power is not a very, it's just not comparable to solar power, let's just put it that way. However, it is something that can be, can produce some amount of power even when the sun is not shining. So, all right, that brings us to the last one. And this one, obviously, it's not just a stretch goal, but probably unrealistic. But I would love if Ecoflow could find a way to bring the price down. These are very significant power stations. It's a huge investment. And, I think Ecoflow does an awesome job by standing by their product. So you are getting something for your money when you purchase a Delta Pro. Definitely their warranty is one of the best in the business, and I've seen them stand by their product. So that's all good. But if there's any way they could bring their next unit and bring the price down, that would be fantastic. It would really increase adoption. All right, that wraps up my top 10 most desired features in the new Delta Pro. There's a lot of other things that would be ideal to include. Really the first 5 or 6 are what I'm most interested in and most hopeful for, and the others are maybe a little bit more of a stretch. But that if Ecoflow is asking me what do I want in the next Delta Pro, these are the things that I would talk to them about first. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm interested in knowing what you're looking for in the next Delta Pro unit and from Ecoflow. And until the next video, thank you for watching. Please hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.